We're going to talk about social media strategy. Why I think it's also important and why I was keen to do something around this topic. The questionnaire that was sent out to all of you, and one of the questions we asked is, do you have a social media strategy as a business? 64 of you, which was at the time 51%, did come out with the words no, no strategy. 34, which was 27%, said to some extent, which I take to mean no. And only 15% of you came out with a definitive yes, we have a strategy for doing this. And at the end of the day, I suppose my takeaway here is, even if it's not quite 100% the right strategy, if we all get you answering yes to I have a strategy, you will be doing social media better than you are doing now. Simple as that. Why? Because you'll have planned it. It won't just be reactionary. It won't just be jumping in. It won't just be kind of on the fly, on the cuff. A strategy allows you to plan to do things better. Again, what I'll say to you before I go any further, presentations, etc. will be disseminated amongst you all. So if there's things on the screen that you would otherwise write down, you don't need to, you'll get it all. So my encouragement today is just to do it. In the words of a famous sporting brand who, yes, intellectual property, etc., would probably sue me for using their logo on the screen. Nobody tell them, I'll be fine. But do it properly. It should be planned properly. This is the beginnings of a 6-point strategy I'm going to just briefly introduce you to today. 6 very simple questions whereby it doesn't really matter if you're a one-man band or a multinational or an airport, etc., all examples of which we have worked with running through this strategy. If you can answer the 6 questions effectively and based on relevance to your own business, then you have a good social media strategy. The answers, of course, between you will all be different, but that's rightly so. It's your business. It's what you want to achieve as a business and the strategy that needs to go around your business. Point 1 in the strategy, understanding your audience. 2, I'll come back to these, don't worry. 2 is defining your objectives. 3 is your baseline message. 4 is finding champions. 5, learn as you go. And 6, continually monitor, evaluate, and reiterate. That is the 6-point strategy. I'm actually going to touch in any detail on just a couple of these today, because again, I can make this last a 2, 3, 4 hour workshop where we get really involved in writing the strategy and looking at it in detail for every one of you. We don't really have the time or remit for that today. So, just very, very briefly, point 1 is know your audience. I'm not going to do anything with this point for you guys. You know this way better than I will. You know your customer base. You know who you're selling to, who you're marketing to, who you want to talk to. And in knowing who they are, hopefully, part of your strategy and part of your research will be working out where they are. Are they on Facebook? I think an awful lot of businesses who answer no to that when I ask them, I prove to them otherwise and they're very surprised. Even business to business. We're only in B2B. B2B aren't on Facebook. B2B, one of the best quotes I heard recently of B2B, I think it was from somebody at Dell, who said B2B, really when you analyze it, is just about P to P, people to people. People in my business talk to people in your business, business to business. But it's still me talking to you. It's still the personal, individual touch. All of these types, not all of them, but you get where I'm going, are on the likes of Facebook, etc. So don't just rule out because you assume that your audience isn't in a particular place. Go and prove it. Because there are ways to prove, beyond today's scope, but there are ways to prove that your audience are here, or they're there, or they're wherever. And that's where you focus on. Knowing your audience inside out, you focus on the social media tools, and they are just tools. I can't stress that enough. You pick which tool or tools are going to be best for you. You maybe don't jump in and do everything. It might never deliver for you. Point 2, your aims and objectives, arguably the most important part of the strategy. Why are you here? Why are you on Facebook? Why are you wanting to embrace social media? Don't just do social media because everyone else is. Don't just follow the crowd. Don't just be another sheep that goes in the same direction. Don't just jump on the bandwagon and any other analogy you want to use. So many businesses, I stress, we see it time and time. We see it day and day. We talk to an awful lot of businesses and what we do. So many of them can't articulate why they're on social media. And often it's a case of, well, of course we need to be. You know, you're telling us that's where it's going. Yes, I am telling you that's where it's going, or already is. But why are you wanting to be there? Why is your business needing to be embracing and using social media? What are your objectives? Define them. If it's as simple as we want to sell more blue widgets, then define it. Be able to tell me our use of social media is entirely to sell more widgets. There's nothing wrong or shameful about that. Define it. What that means is your entire usage of social media all comes back to, does it meet objective? Does it try and do, does me saying this on Twitter or this on Facebook, will that in any shape or form help our objective? And if the answer is yes, it's probably worth doing. If the answer is no, it doesn't mean you should dismiss it, but it's worth a little bit of thought. Is it worth it? Should I waste my time? Should I bother? If the answer is yes, it will meet objective, then it's good activity to be doing on social media. Point 3, I'll come back to that one in just a little second in relation to this one as well. Once you've worked out what you want to do, what you want to achieve, what are you going to say to achieve that? Earlier on I said it's all about the conversation. All about what conversations are you going to stimulate? What conversations are you going to go and look for? What conversations are you wanting to be part of? Do you want to create, to lead? What is your baseline message? I've already showed you this slide, but it's worth putting up again. What your baseline message probably shouldn't include, or certainly not include too much of, you can get away a little bit, but not too much. It shouldn't be sales. An awful lot of people use social media to sell, or they try and use social media to sell. They're the same organizations. They're the same 40% of people who say Facebook doesn't work. It's useless. And sometimes they're trying to use it to do the hard sell. The clue's in the title. It's social media. If you go into a social space and try and punt your product or service, you won't. If you go into a social space and people are talking about your product or service and you're helping them communicate, helping them facilitate that conversation, providing support, advice, knowledge, expertise, that'll all work for you. You go in and you sell and it won't work for you. There's a balance to be had, and a lot of the businesses do it wrong from a strategy point of view, either have no strategy or their strategy is, we must sell. Nothing wrong with the objective being to sell. How you do that is not through hard selling. It's a little bit hard to get your head around, but it does make a big, big difference to your success on social media. You go in not to sell, you might sell. You go in trying to sell, you won't do it. There are some variations to that. It's all about the conversation, as I said. What do I mean by baseline message? It's a little bit of a geeky concept. Baseline message is you planning as part of your strategy in advance before you actually do anything what the minimal amount of engagement you're going to do on social media. So you should never go into work on a Monday and go, what are we going to talk about this week? What are we going to say? What are we going to do? Let's make some stuff up on the fly. And because that type of activity may land you in trouble. That type of, I'll just kind of make it up on the spot, may land you in trouble because you haven't planned it. You haven't thought about the implications. You haven't planned, is it the best thing for the business to be doing right now? Is this where our focus is? What are we trying to achieve? What are the objectives? Let's just go in and, now there's nothing wrong with going in and chatting to people reactively, but that is reactive. That's me seeing you on Twitter saying, oh, I've just been to a social media session from Ennis Design, and I'll react to that. However, all of the, I hate to use the word marketing message because it's not just about marketing, but all of the planned messages that we as a business put out there, all of the announcements that we're happily down in Somerset, not Devon, geez, to do a workshop next week, all of the, this is great, we're doing this or we're doing this, or all the stuff we proactively push out there has been planned. Planned because it's the right thing for our business to say at this possible time. So the baseline message is, right, at a minimum, we know that next week we can write a blog post about this, we can talk on Twitter a little bit about this, we can post up our pictures from blah, blah, blah on Facebook over here. And so at a minimum, we know what the minimal engagement is next week, which means we won't go through the week with nothing to say. One of the worst things to say is nothing. One of the worst things to do on social media is to be all excited by it, to jump onto it, and then to do nothing on it. It will do you no favors. It's almost worth not being there as opposed to that strategy. So you plan in advance what you're going to say. It makes a huge difference to your ongoing strategy. What I want to quickly do, and what time? We're making good time. I'm going to split you into a few groups, if you will, here. This is a little bit of interactive for you. Based on the layout of the room, I'll minimise what I was planning on doing here, just because it's not really conducive to kind of group work. But if you want, feel free to mess up the chairs, I don't mind. If you want to kind of huddle into groups of maybe 4, 5, 6 or 7, in fact, let's just aim for 4 groups. If we have we break both sides into 2 groups. Can we do that just now? What I want to get you to doing is actually, the reason we're doing this, it's actually very difficult to be objective about your own business. To say, well, what could we do? because you're so involved in the business, you're so looking at it from the inside out, that sometimes it's very, very difficult to go, well, we could do a bit of this, we could do a bit of that, because you have all these preconceptions. Much, much easier to look at other businesses and to analyse and give them a good kicking. Because you'll do that to somebody else, it's harder to do to yourself. We're going to look at 4 businesses. One is a very small sewing machine repair company. One is a large tourist giant in the name of Thomas Cook. One of them is a wedding planner, and one of them is an entertainment company. So a mix of businesses. Let's break ourselves into 4. You guys get doing that, and I'm going to hand out a couple of wee sheets for you. Guys, I'll give you one of these, thank you. Give you one of these, if you will. Give you this one, thank you. And lastly, let me give you this. Right, just very, very quickly, you'll work out what I'm asking you to do. In your groups, I've just given out a scenario. Now, what I want to stress is these are live businesses. These are real businesses. And the scenario you have on the bit of paper is a real scenario. I want one of you just to take a lead, read it to the rest of the group, and really what I'm wanting you, we'll only spend 5 minutes maximum on this. Basically, these businesses have issues on social media, and I want you to solve their issues. I want you to come up and brainstorm things that they could do, what their objectives should maybe be, some of the things, some of the baseline message, some of the conversation that they could do on social media. Assume complete ignorance. Don't ever think, well, they could do this, but surely they're doing it. Just assume that they're not doing anything, and come up with ideas on social media to make these 4 businesses better. We'll give you 5 minutes to talk about it in your teams. Right, we're going to start with the company that was called Sewing Machine Maintenance. Who had sewing machine maintenance? Down the front. Let me just give you a little bit of background for the rest of the audience. This is a sole trader operating for over 6 months in the west of Scotland. He's actually had social media training and found work because of it, but he has nothing booked in for this week. He's got a website, he's got a Facebook page, but reckons Twitter is his best shot because there's a chance people who've never heard of him might see his messages. But the question given was, what should he say to give himself the best chance of finding some work? First of all, do you want to just, can you tell us some of his example tweets? What's he currently doing?
He seems to be very sort of politically motivated and sort of going on about strikers and pensions and nothing really specifically business related.
Exactly. He says, don't hate the strikers if their pension is better than yours. Join a union and make yours better too. Race to the top, not the bottom.
Yeah, so he's putting out a voice that isn't really aligned with his business. He should have a personal Twitter account and a business one, really,
absolutely. So,
not be tweeting personal on
so the first bit of advice is just beware of the overlap between business and personal, which any business can learn from, and lots of businesses make mistakes on. You're right. I mean, some of the other things he says is a previous tweet, I'm not a violent man, but I fought the urge to punch my computer in the past. He says, going to Aberdeen this Wednesday, Thursday and Friday to do some jobs I've been putting off because it's time away from home. All hail the mighty dollar. What's your first impressions of this man? This man is a man who specialises in a very niche market of fixing sewing machines. There's not many people like him. What's your first impression of him?
It's quite opinionated.
Opinionated.
Too much time on his hands.
Too much time on his hands, yeah. Exactly. He concentrates too much on my personal belief and feeling and opinion. Comes across at times as very grumpy. Now, whether he's grumpy or not, sorry? He's not very professional. You're exactly right. He might be the best sewing machine repairman in the world. And if that's the impression we're getting of him through his output, we probably don't want to do business with him as a business. So there's a real concern. What else have you got for us?
He should be obviously mentioning what he does a bit more and maybe just tweeting out some sewing machine tips or something like that. Maybe make up a hashtag like or at least have a good, it doesn't say what his Twitter name is, but start off with a good Twitter name like Singer Man or something
Show
like
us
that.
you're the expert. This is a very niche, geeky world that even people that maybe don't want sewing, a lot of people would, like strange, niche and geeky topics, whether or not they have a direct need for it, and that is as well as all the people who actually want it. So show us your expertise. Give us expertise.
To make a point, isn't this growing? Isn't since the economic climate as it is, people have started sewing like
Oh, it's like of Etsy and things like that. Etsy is an online.
Yeah, in terms of the cottage industry and crafts. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there is, he's well placed to take advantage of a growth.
Lots of people got sewing machines somewhere lurking around, which is just gathering dust.
Yeah, that's it. He should be tweeting out using hashtags with like hashcraft and things like that, so people spot his tweets.
Yep, absolutely.
Also doing location-based tweets with Twitter, sort of finding people within his radius of his area.
Correct. He said he's, you know, in his area as well, but he's also said that he's actually going to Aberdeen next week, etc. What should he be doing? He can be taking advantage of some of the geolocation type of stuff in social media and Twitter, etc., to go and search who up in Aberdeen currently needs his help and proactively going and looking for customers. Yeah, great. Anything else?
Finding other sewing machine users to follow, but maybe influential ones like Scottish fashion houses that might do a bit of stitching, or individual celebrities that are into craft and sewing on TV, and follow them and try and get in with them.
Build on the power of other people's influence and networks. You know, there's an awful lot of great wins to be had on social media by not just going after the end user, but going after other people who attract the same end user. The kind of, you know, the kind of businesses on the fringe of your business. Exactly, go after the haberdashery, go after the clothing shops, go after the celebrities if you like. There's no harm in any of that. Don't think, well, that's not really business. Of course it is. If your audience is attracted to somebody else, you need to align yourself with that somebody else, and there are wonderful ways to do that on a very practical level, so that anybody talking to them is one step away from talking to you, and he could be doing all of that and more. Right, let's move on. Let's jump to one of the bigger ones. Let's jump to Thomas Cook. Who did Thomas Cook? Is it chaps at the back? Let me again just quickly summarise the Thomas Cook issue. Thomas Cook, they have 15,500 likes on Facebook. It's all negative mainstream TV coverage, which is leading customers on Facebook and Twitter, asking nothing about holidays, etc., etc. It's all about, are you going bust? Is our money safe? You know, what's the real story about the business here? They are a large travel agent trying to create a very positive conversation, and they're annoyed that they can't get some of the positive vibe that companies like Apple and Starbucks get, where people join on these channels and love them. For them, it's all negative, it's all, you know, issues, it's all, is it this, explain to me. So, what could they do?
Right, okay, let's just have a quick look. Okay, I've just become the nominated speaker, I think. So
that's demographic election, that is.
Okay, so Thomas Cook, lots of negative coverage and rumours about their demise. They're obviously not getting, they're not in the conversation at all. You know, one of the big things you said earlier, you know, you've got to get in the conversation, it's about the conversation, and then they're not answering their emails, people are tweeting terrible things about them, and they've got to sort out their response. So they've got to empower some of their employees, if not all of their employees, to sort of get involved in the conversation in a positive way. That will need training and make sure they're on message, obviously. I'm going to make this up a little bit, so forgive me, you can correct me, but they've obviously got positive assets that they're not shouting about. So that's customers who have been on good holidays.
Exactly.
They need to find some champions, they need to get them out there, and they need to get them, hopefully, some digital literate ones that can get out there blogging.
I'm sure if you look at the majority of people who go on a holiday with Thomas Cook, the majority are the silent majority. They're the ones who have a wonderful holiday, come back, and actually forget that it was Thomas Cook that helped deliver that wonderful holiday. It's only the people who have the negative and the concern and the worry, as I say, it will be a small majority, who come on and vocalise very publicly about the issues.
That's
and what they have, you're exactly right, what they have is this big majority that they're not tapping into.
I think equally, their employees are probably a really good source of positive stories. You know, they've got a really good, loyal workforce, I'm guessing, in really wide range of locations. So let's get somebody, Darren, tweeting from Barbados about the weather and the cocktail and the great clients he's having. I think TripAdvisor, it'd be worthwhile just checking out what reviews they're getting. If they've got good reviews there, then let's get them plugged in. Let's get some really good, positive stories out there. And I think honesty and transparency. You know, they're talking about the financial issues, assuming that the management team have got those in check, then let's get a transparent, fresh
what they're
angle
currently
on
not doing, and you're totally leading towards this, what they're currently not doing is addressing the big issue. Their aim is to turn things around, to be positive and to be happy and to be good. How can they ever do that when they're not addressing what the current issue is, which is all negative and bad? They're ignoring it, trying to do some happy stuff, which is just being flooded with negative. So the first thing they need to do is be honest, open and transparent, because they can't hide on social media, and address some of the issues that are being asked. You know, they might not like it, but get the CEO to do a little video piece on YouTube, put it on Facebook, etc., which says, you know what, times are tough, we have had problems, but we're not going bust. This is the situation, and worst case scenario, we're at all protected, etc., etc., etc. Don't have concerns, and if you do, here's ways to address them, and so on. At the moment, because they're not even addressing any of that, they're just trying to kind of gloss it up. None of that gloss will work for them, because everyone thinks, stop ignoring us and answer the damn question. So they need to address the issue first. Let's assume they do that. Let's assume they begin to negate some of this. They begin to respond, etc. What's one of the very quick wins they can do, you know, straight away to make a positive spin on it? Let me ask you, let me put it in a different way, which is an easy answer, an easy question to answer. What's one of the first things certain people, not everyone, but it's growing, what's one of the first things people do when they get home from holiday? Unpack.
Download their pictures.
Brilliant. Exactly. They want to tell the rest of their friends what a wonderful time, because most of them have a wonderful time. And what do? They upload their photos, now more than ever, to Facebook. If Thomas Cook could somehow tap into what is already happening, you're not asking them to do anything they don't already do. We gave you that holiday. We gave you that family photo of a smiley face. We gave you that. How can we encourage people to somehow associate us with that image?
No.
Yep.
Like it on Facebook,
like it on
for
Facebook,
a new holiday, whatever. Yeah.
Tag us on Facebook. Yeah. Tag the phone. Tagging is a wonderful concept on Facebook. It spreads the viral message of whatever you're trying to spread very, very quickly. Add into that some sort of potential competition, and people are doing it. People sometimes just need a little nudge. A little nudge. Well, I'm uploading my photos anyway. If I tag a few of them with Thomas Cook against it, I might win next year's holiday. Things like that, but again, I stress you can only begin to do things like that having dealt with the issue first of all. They can't just jump on and expect these initiatives to work without having dealt with the negatives in the first place. Any other quick things and we'll move on? Any other big fixes for them? I'll pass all of this on to them, by the way, so feel free.
Very good. No, I think that kind of summarizes most of what we had to say.
Okay, who had Weddings by Lisa? Right. Very, very quickly, Lisa is a sole trader. She's based in Dunoon, which is just off the west coast of Scotland. She thinks she knows how to use Facebook, and she's quite at ease. She only has 14 likes. She's been doing this a while. She's only got 14 likes. She's a bit frustrated. How do we improve things for her? Just to give you a little bit idea of our typical update on status. She says, I'm exhibiting at Glasgow Girls Wedding Guide Fair this Sunday, the 4th of September, at the Partick Borough Hall. Free entry, and I'll be offering a 10% discount to all bookings made in the day. Later on that week, she says, another update on Facebook. Don't forget to come and say hello. I'll be at the Glasgow Girls Wedding Guide Fair at Partick Borough Hall this entry, free entry, and I'll give you a 10% discount. Just before the event, she goes onto Facebook again. The first 100 brides through the door at the Glasgow Girls Wedding Fair can have a choice of ticket, etc. I'm giving a 10% discount, etc., etc., etc. And the event comes and goes. She moves into the next week, and she follows the same process again. Hey, next week, I'm at somewhere else, etc., etc. So, how can she improve?
Well, first of all, we identified that what she was doing was basically broadcasting. She wasn't building relationships. So it's a bit like physical networking. If you go into a room of people that you don't know, you wouldn't suddenly shout across the room, buy from me.
Exactly.
Or anything like that.
That's exactly what she's doing, and I'm very glad you put it into a real-world networking context, because when you say it like that, it's a no-brainer. Nobody's going to behave like that in a networking environment.
Yeah, very much so. Some of the other suggestions was that there was a lack of networking involved. She could have signed up to maybe Twitter and looked for hashtags that were related to these events and wedding fairs and weddings and all that sort of stuff. Somebody mentioned that perhaps she hasn't utilised her existing contacts to get more likes on her page.
Exactly.
So marketing her Facebook likes.
Exactly. I love that one for a start. Because clearly she's doing Facebook very badly. But let's assume she's a good business. She's been in business for a while. What's the one thing she's going to have? Clients. What's the one thing that these clients are? Hopefully, if she's done her job right, they are happy brides. Again, similar question. What's the one thing happy brides do? Photos, etc., etc. Happy brides, put them onto Facebook. They talk about their wedding, how great it was, etc. She's one step removed from being kind of having some sort of acknowledgement that she made that happen. This didn't happen by chance. Lisa did this. But she's not tapping into her existing resource, her existing clientele, and how they can champion your business. And again, it's nothing they're not already doing. They just need a nudge. Yep.
We also said that basically she wasn't telling people the benefits. She could have done more showing.
Great, yeah.
Because obviously she's a wedding organizer.
Exactly.
We're
Why
not
do
gonna,
I need a wedding planner?
Exactly
if
that.
you don't get a wedding planner, here's what could go wrong with you. Top 10 wedding disasters.
Yeah.
That type of content works remarkably well on social media. I'm not quite feeding the fear and the negative, but put it to me in simple terms, why you, backed up by testimonials of happy brides, etc., etc., and suddenly I'm thinking, we might talk to Lisa if we've got the wedding coming up or whatever.
Yeah, very much so. We also said there was a lack of links to things like videos and stuff that she might be able to show those disasters and so forth.
I like that. Show me. Don't just tell me. Show me.
Yeah,
People
exactly
love
that.
to see and experience something.
Yeah.
Show me the photos, the videos, etc. Yeah, great.
We noticed there was a lack of cooperation with other suppliers. There's bound to be other suppliers that she uses that she could have piggybacked on.
Similar principles to the sewing machine repair man. Look who's on your fringe, as we call it. What are the businesses that are potential partners, collaborators, who are attracting similar numbers and audiences and demographics that you can tap into? Because you're exactly right. I mean, the wedding industry is massive. Yeah. Not all of the wedding industry is her competition. An awful lot of it are potential collaborators. So tap into them, like them, they'll like you back. Talk about them, they'll talk about you back.
And finally, it was no solutions to the problems. So it was more of again, the broadcasting. No links to other social networks, which she could have done. So basically it was about networking the information that she already had and to produce a better content strategy.
Great, I agree. And I think you summed it up there quite nicely. Content strategy. At the moment, her content is advertising. That's all she does. Come see me, I'm here. Come see me, I'm here. Come see me. She doesn't sell the benefit to coming to see her, to engage with her, to talk to her. She doesn't get other people to market her for her. It's all about, you're right, the content strategy is the main thing. It's the biggest issue. Right, lastly, fresh entertainments. Who had fresh entertainments? Right, very, very quickly, this is a mobile disco operator. Booking himself for parties and weddings, etc. He's very ambitious. He's planning some quite innovative services in the future, standing himself out from the competition, such as streaming of video streaming. He uses Facebook, frustrated by the numbers again. How can he boost his numbers? A couple of very quick status updates. For example, one of his updates on Facebook, I've just ordered the patterns for the new Elvis jumpsuits. Professional looking Elvis costumes on the way. Great. How can you improve it?
Well, with it's a bit general in his status updates. It could be, he sort of said things like that, but not really honed it down to one particular thing, not really said what he does.
Sure.
Maybe he could sort of hone that into just specifically what he does, because there's another one on there that says, "Happy Monday, everyone. Just catching up on X Factor. Love Kitty. She is mental."
Yeah.
They're just too general.
Sure, yeah.
So he could, just hone that in. Also, he only uses Facebook at the moment. We thought he could extend that, obviously, to Twitter.
Exactly.
Tweet about
yeah,
things
Twitter,
and then link to Facebook.
Potentially YouTube. He's focusing on
YouTube,
video-type
definitely.
material. He's got a great platform for YouTube and that type of content.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I'm just foreseeing what's coming next.
Again, you could tweet or you could Facebook events and different packages that are coming up.
I mean, he is an events man, as is Lisa. It's all about events. It's all about, I'm doing something somewhere at some time. How do you maximise that? Facebook events module out the box is a wonderful tool. He promotes that on Facebook, promotes it as an event. All it takes is a few of his champion clients to click, yes, I'm RSVP, I'm attending, and that event goes out to all of their 500 friends, etc. One thing to do, one click, and I've just marketed his event to 500 people. He didn't ask me to, but he's a good guy. I know him. I know the business. That's how it works.
And again, if you've just done that event, you can post up pictures and tag them.
Exactly. Pictures and tagging are big for a lot of these organisations.
And equally, anyone that's been can tag their own
one of my obvious ones is, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with the update. Just ordered the patterns for the Elvis jumpsuit. What's the one thing that would make that update 10 times better? The picture of him in the Elvis jumpsuit. Exactly. Sure. Now, okay, maybe it's a bit of a daft, quirky, fun example, but suddenly, again, I'm experiencing it, I'm getting it, I'm part of his world. Right, unless there's anything else to add, we're nearly done. We're going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. I want to just very, very quickly talk about this one because a lot of it came a second ago. Finding your champions, by that I mean in your own organisation and in other organisations. The success of your business on social media is very often down to the person doing it. I'll skim over a lot of this. You'll get the information. An awful lot of people delegate social media. Smaller businesses, it should and maybe, it often is and maybe should be the person at the top. Why? Because they are the most enthused, they know the business inside out. For small owner-managed businesses, why wouldn't it be you? For bigger organisations, they often make the mistake of delegating. And very often, some of them, public sector's particularly bad, the examples we've seen over the years, it's a case of, right, Geeky Gary in the corner, you do the web, so you do social media. Now, is Geeky Gary the best person to speak on a global scale about anything to do with business? About supporting people, about helping people, about information, about all of these things? Probably not. So if you are going to have the right person, I want you to make sure they are, I'll finish just on these few slides, I want you to make sure that they are passionate, I want you to make sure they are educated, and I don't mean that they have a BSc or all these letters after your name, etc. I mean educated in why the business is doing it. What the objective is, what the strategy is, educated in what you're trying to achieve, supportive, because an awful lot of good social media is supportive, professional, and above all, I'll leave you with this slide, make sure they enjoy talking to other people. It's social. Your strategy is about talking. If you've got the wrong person who can't communicate a message in the real world, if it's a person you would never dream of letting pick up the phone and speak to a member of the public or a client or whatever, they probably shouldn't be doing social media, right? That's a touch of social media strategy for you. We'll send you the presentation where you'll get a few more slides. I'm not missing too much here, to be honest. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. On to the next one.